Statistics Minister James Shaw says while the review has found failings, they are being fixed, and he's in our Wellington studio and joins us now. Good evening, Minister. I just want to be clear. The statistics boss, Liz McPherson, is going. Was it made clear to her that that was the expectation, that she should go?
Look, it is Liz's decision, and as Peter Hughes said, his expectation is that his chief executives own their mistakes and that they fix them and that they learn from them, but also that they take accountability for them, and I support that decision.
So let me put it another way. If she hadn't resigned, was she going to be sacked?
Look, that's a hypothetical question. Liz takes her responsibilities extremely strongly, and I know that this has been weighing on her for some time.
Talking about responsibilities, I know that several statistics ministers were involved with this particular census, but as the current minister, what responsibility do you take for what is a debacle?
Well, I see my responsibility as fixing it, and the work that Liz has led in remediating the census over the course of the last 12 months, I think, has been outstanding. Connie Graziadei, who was one of the two reviewers who spoke at the press conference this morning, pointed out that the work that Statistics NZ has done in remediation is so good that not only will it serve future New Zealand censuses, but actually will be of use to other statistics agencies around the world.
Yeah, and that's great. But did you ask the right questions during this process? Did you go seek clarification? Did you dig deep enough to find out what exactly was going on and how bad it was?
When they started the independent review, I sat down with Murray Jack and Connie Graziadei, and I specifically asked them to look at my role and the role of other statistics ministers, of which there have been 6 in total over the course of the census period, and to say, were there things that we could have or should have done differently? What they have told me is that in their view there wasn't, essentially because ministers are only as good as the information that they are provided with, and I guess one of the key findings was that big variances to the plan and key risks were not being escalated when they should have been.
Yes, but it comes back to that question. Did you go back and seek more information? If you're only as good as the information you're getting, were you probing enough for that information?
Well, that is essentially what the question that I put to the independent reviewers, and in their sense, the answer is no. I think the questions that I was asking, I was being provided with information both about the online side and also the offline component, the paper-based census, and was being assured that things were going according to plan.
So were you misled?
Minister?
Intentionally or otherwise, were you misled?
I think that the information that I was receiving, the report says that ministers were not wholly apprised of the facts on the ground.
So does that mean you were misled?
Look, that's strong language. Certainly there were big variances and risks that were decisions around key risks that we were not being apprised of. And I guess one of the things that I saw in the report that I found really disappointing was that what got tested in advance of the census, and the tests did go very well, was not actually what happened on the ground. And essentially we didn't know that what was being delivered was not what had been tested or planned for. And that's what I mean about big variances to the plan. Those decisions do not appear to have been escalated in the way that they should have been. All
right, so we now find ourselves in this situation. So how much of the data is compromised and where are the gaps and inadequacies still? Specifically.
And this is really important because New Zealanders need to have confidence in the census and in the agency that produces the census. And as Joe Moyer's report just said, there is a difference between the input into the census, which was the response rate, which was unacceptably low, and the coverage rate, which is the output of the census. So the reason why the census output has been delayed is because Stats have been working over the course of the last year to supplement the input with information that the government already holds.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Minister, but I do get that. So you have patched the gaps for core information using other available information. And so you're saying that that is above the gold standard, the information that you've managed to get a hold of. But there is still other data which falls short. And that's what I'm interested in. Where are the gaps still and what are the consequences of those gaps?
Yeah, so the example that Stats NZ released earlier this year was iwi affiliation data, and that is not as good as they would like. So they have Māori ethnicity and descent, but they don't have iwi affiliation.
And so what does that mean in practical terms?
Well, they're working through that with key users of that data, and you made the point that there's a kind of a gold standard that they use for national statistics. That actually doesn't mean that something that doesn't reach that gold standard isn't usable, but you just have to be very careful about how you use it. So what they're going to be doing in September, and then the second release is in December, and then another release early next year, is tranches of releases. And when they do that, they'll say what has met that gold standard, and if something hasn't met that gold standard, they're still going to be publishing their methodology and saying what it can be used for and what it can't be used for.
So that iwi affiliations information, for example, could it compromise treaty settlements? Could it disadvantage hapu who are wanting to go on their own with treaty settlements? What are the practical ramifications?
So those are possibilities. But one of the other things that Stats has been doing is it doesn't just release those statistics. It's actually working with iwi Māori organisations on what their data needs are, and they've been working with them on ways to remediate that, and also to say, well, what you can use that information for. That seems to be going reasonably well so far.
How many other holes are there? How many other areas fall short?
I can't tell you that because
How come we don't know that more than a year on? We still can't identify the exact failings.
Because the work on some of those data sets isn't yet complete. Like I said, there's going to be 3 tranches of release, one in September, one in December, then another one early next year. And that rolling set of releases, not all of the work has yet been completed to release them.
Before you go, Minister, if you could very quickly, off the top of your head, complete this sentence for me. Census 2018 was?
A mixed bag.
Thank you for joining us. That is Statistics Minister James Shaw.